Evelyn Carter woke up to a silence so complete it felt unnatural. For a brief second, she thought she was in her Manhattan apartment, the place where every detail was controlled and familiar. Then she noticed the faint hum of traffic below and the muted glow of unfamiliar city light leaking through heavy curtains. She wasn't home. Her heartbeat quickened as awareness settled in. The bed was larger than her own. The sheets smelled faintly of hotel detergent. And then there was the weight, an arm resting carefully, almost respectfully around her side. Evelyn froze. She became acutely aware of her body, of the fact that she was completely naked beneath the covers. Panic rose, sharp and immediate, but years of executive discipline kept her from reacting impulsively. Slowly, deliberately, she turned her head. The man beside her was asleep, breathing evenly. She recognized him instantly. Daniel Brooks, 40 years old, senior operations manager, one of the most reliable professionals at Carter Dynamics. A man known for restraint, competence, and an almost old-fashioned respect for hierarchy. Someone she trusted precisely because he had never once blurred boundaries. Her mind raced through the previous night, searching for clarity. The board dinner, the merger celebration, too many meetings stacked back to back. She remembered feeling dizzy, brushing it off as fatigue. She remembered Daniel insisting on walking her back to the hotel after she nearly stumbled in the lobby. After that, nothing. Evelyn gently slid away, careful not to wake him, and stood. Her legs felt steady, but her thoughts did not. She wrapped herself in a robe and moved to the window, staring out at the San Francisco skyline as if answers might be hidden among the buildings. She had built her career on control. At 35, she was one of the youngest CEOs in her sector, known for discipline, professionalism, and an almost intimidating focus. The media had speculated endlessly about her personal life, or lack of one. She had never let it matter. Until now. Behind her, the bed shifted. "Miss Carter?" Daniel's voice was rough with confusion. "Evelyn." She turned slowly. He was sitting up, the sheet pulled to his waist, eyes wide with alarm as he took in the situation. His expression was not one of guilt or entitlement. It was shock, bordering on fear. "I don't understand," he said carefully. "I was on the couch. I swear I was." Evelyn studied him, searching for any sign of deception. She found none. Only concern. Only restraint. "I don't remember anything after sitting down," she said, choosing her words with precision. "Do you?" He shook his head. "You fell asleep. I didn't want to leave you alone. That's all." The implications hung heavy in the air. Even without intent, even without memory, the situation itself was dangerous. Power dynamics did not require action to become explosive. Perception was enough. Evelyn exhaled slowly. "What matters now," she said, voice steady, is... By the time Evelyn Carter boarded the early flight back to New York, the shock of the morning had settled into something colder and more dangerous. Calculation. She reviewed facts the way she reviewed quarterly reports. Chronological and emotional, precise. There had been no inappropriate behavior she could recall. No messages, no witnesses inside the suite. And yet, she knew better than anyone that truth and perception were not the same thing. Daniel had insisted on taking a separate ride to the airport. It was the right move. At Carter Dynamics headquarters, the day unfolded with an uneasy normalcy. Emails stacked up. Meetings resumed. But Evelyn felt the shift immediately. A half-second pause when she entered the executive floor. Averted eyes. Conversations that stopped just a beat too late. News traveled fast in corporate environments, especially when it involved power and proximity. By noon, her chief legal officer requested a private meeting. "There's been an inquiry," he said carefully. "Anonymous. No allegations yet. Just concern." Evelyn nodded. She had expected it. She authorized an internal review on the spot, requesting an external firm to avoid any appearance of influence. She documented everything, her own initiative, her recollection, her directives. Transparency was her only shield. Daniel was placed on paid administrative leave pending review. The decision weighed heavily on her, though she showed none of it. He had done nothing wrong, at least not by any evidence. Still, the structure demanded distance. Fairness demanded it. Across the city, Daniel sat alone in his apartment, staring at his phone. Messages from colleagues went unanswered. He replayed the night in fragments, the way Evelyn's steps had slowed, how pale she looked, the brief moment she leaned against the elevator wall. He remembered choosing the couch deliberately, setting an alarm to check on her, and nothing after that. What haunted him was not fear for himself, but the possibility that her career, built with ruthless effort and restraint, could be damaged because he had tried to help. 3 days later, the press caught wind. The article was cautious, speculative, but sharp enough to cut. It referenced an incident during executive travel and questions of internal boundaries. No names were mentioned, but the industry knew how to read between lines. Evelyn addressed the board personally. She stood at the head of the table, spine straight, voice calm. She did not minimize the situation, nor did she dramatize it. She outlined the facts, the safeguards, and the steps she had taken. When questioned, she answered directly. When challenged, she listened. What surprised them was not her defense. It was her accountability. The investigation expanded. Hotel staff were interviewed. Security logs reviewed. Timelines reconstructed. Nothing suggested misconduct. What emerged instead was a pattern of exhaustion. Back-to-back travel. Overloaded schedules. A culture that quietly grew. Weeks later, the independent investigation concluded. The findings were clear. No misconduct, no evidence of coercion, no inappropriate behavior from either party. The report emphasized exhaustion, stress, and the blurred lines of constant executive travel as the only contributing factors. It recommended procedural adjustments, stricter travel protocols, mandatory check-ins for executives, and clearer guidelines for employee accommodations. The board approved the recommendations unanimously, signaling confidence in Evelyn's leadership while ensuring the company was better protected against future misunderstandings. Daniel was reinstated immediately, though reassigned to a different division, to avoid any perception of favoritism or impropriety. He returned to work with a quiet professionalism, showing the same dedication he always had. But the weight of the situation lingered. Evelyn observed him from a distance, noting the subtle tension in his posture, the way he measured his words in meetings. She understood. The incident had impacted him as much as it had her. For Evelyn, the morning she had woken up in a stranger's hotel room, with a trusted employee beside her, had been a reckoning. It revealed vulnerabilities she had long ignored, the consequences of relentless work, the fragility of perception, and the need to balance authority with humanity. She spent days reflecting, writing new guidelines for her executive team, and personally meeting with HR to ensure everyone understood the importance of boundaries and communication. Her leadership style subtly shifted, becoming more human without compromising professionalism, more strategic without ignoring personal well-being. The company itself began to change. Employees spoke more openly about burnout, the pressures of corporate culture, and the fine line between dedication and overextension. Corporate wellness initiatives were strengthened, and internal communications began emphasizing transparency and accountability. What had begun as a potentially career-ending crisis transformed into a turning point, reshaping the corporate culture at Carter Dynamics. Finally, Evelyn and Daniel met one last time in a glass-walled conference room. HR was present, the room quiet and neutral. Neither was defensive, neither awkward. Instead, there was mutual acknowledgement of what had happened and the professionalism required to move forward. Evelyn spoke first. "I appreciate your honesty and your integrity," she said calmly. "Not just yesterday, but throughout. I regret the position it put you in, but I am grateful you handled it with the professionalism I always knew you had." Daniel nodded. "It was difficult, but I trust the outcome. I don't regret helping you when you needed support. That's all it was." Months later, Carter Dynamics reached record profits. The media praised Evelyn not for surviving a scandal, but for her leadership, transparency, and commitment to ethical standards. She spoke at a leadership summit,